At the center of all love I stand, and from that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our meditation. This is Michael, and I'm broadcasting here from the Temple of Silence here in southern Finland. And Tuija will be joining us as much as she can. She's in the north. And today's meditation concerns the attracting of financial resources for the support of the great work of helping to spread the ageless wisdom and prepare the way for the externalization of the hierarchy and the coming of the Christ. That preparation is done very much in the minds of the people. They have to have a different conception of hierarchy, some conception perhaps of the divine plan, and do whatever they can to help redirect the financial resources towards these absolutely vital objectives. So, as DK told us, the most important thing coming out of his ashram, which is an ashram dedicated to the energy of right human relations, is knowledge of the new group of world servers and knowledge of the externalizing hierarchy and reappearing head of the hierarchy, the Christ. Of course, this is going to require financial resources just to keep the word coming out. And we have so many millions that we have to reach by the end of this 21st century. Madame Blavatsky tells us that occultism must have won the day by the end of this century, which means, I suppose, that it is a respected, accepted stream of thought, accepted and respected by many who are leaders of humanity and who are intelligent and have in their minds ways of assisting the solution to human problems. What I'd like to do first is just read a little bit here about the lack of financial support for the work of the Christ. We got into this a little bit before, and it is a major difficulty, no question about it, and DK tells us at times an insuperable one. It's very difficult. We are told to train people to give according to their means, and there has to be such a magnetic appeal that they will perforce give. And then there's the administration of the money and the proper kind of trusts. He tells us about the 4 main channels of expenditure, that money finds its way into 4 areas principally, into the myriad of homes through the wages and salaries or inherited wealth, or into the great capitalistic systems and monopolies, and maybe that's more and more the case. DK did warn us about the uprising not just of selfish individuals, but of selfish groups. Of course, there are many larger organizations which are philanthropic in nature. And the money goes into the churches and religious groups throughout the world, but oftentimes toward the material aspects of the work, and not so much into really helping humanity understand the work of the Christ in all of its simplicity. And the last channel is pretty much a positive one, into philanthropic, educational, and medical work, all part of the redemption of humanity. But the question is it properly directed? And is it directed towards institutional and concrete values, which DK would say is a misdirection, or does it actually bring the aid which humanity really, really needs along the line of education and health, I think, particularly. And that health has to be not just physical health, but psychological health, and in general what we call mental health. So a little bit today, reading from what he says, the fact remains that had the directing agencies through whose hands the money of the world is channeled any true vision of the spiritual realities, and this is where our educational efforts come in, if they had any true vision of the spiritual realities, of the one humanity, an easily spoken concept, but is it appreciated, and the one world, an even more inclusive concept, and had their objective been the stimulation of right human relations, that's the theme of his ashram, the mass of men everywhere would be responding to a future possibility very different from the present one. We would not be faced as we are today with the expenditures running into countless billions, necessitated by the need to restore physically not only the physical bodies of countless millions of men, but entire cities, transportation systems, and centers responsible for the reorganizing of human living. And of course this is immediately following the war, where the forces of reconstruction were so vital they had to be applied. However, when you look at the world today, there are so many in dire poverty and deprived of educational opportunities, and health care is inadequate in so many places. So, in fact, not much has changed in that regard. And yet we do have the United Nations, thank goodness, and it is filled with people who are aware of what the problems of humanity really are, and are doing their best, despite the nationalism of the members of the great organization, their insistence upon their own sovereignty above all. Despite all this, good work is being done, and work I think that could be done through no other organization today. Now, going on here, equally it can be said that if the spiritual values and the spiritual responsibilities attached to money, in large quantities or in small, had been properly appreciated and taught in homes and schools, we would not have had the appalling statistics of the money spent prior to the war in every country in the world, and spent today in Western Hemisphere, and I have to add, and still spent today on candy, liquor, cigarettes, recreation, unnecessary clothes, and luxuries. Well, that aspect of comfort has not yet subsided sufficiently in the value systems of the people. It is still a big problem, the misdirection towards these more trivial things, and on top of that they undermine health, so many of them. These statistics, he says, run into hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and by now I'm sure it's much more. We have, it makes the news that homes are selling for, millions upon millions of dollars, or whatever the currency may be. And it's looked at as desirable to capture, to grab as much of this money as may be possible. Yes, for one's necessities for luxuries. And that is, well, it takes it away from things which are absolutely essential. He goes on to say a fraction of this money, necessitating the minimum of sacrifice, would enable the disciples of the Christ and the new group of world servers to prepare the way for his coming, and to educate the minds and hearts of men in every land in right human relations. So it seems that as a humanity, our values system is not at all what it should be. Of course, there are exceptions, and there are wealthy, very wealthy people who give in ways that really help humanity. Money, as with all else in human living, has been, and that's quite a statement, as with all else in human living, has been tainted by selfishness and grabbed for selfish individual or national ends. Of this, the World War, 1914 to 45, is the proof. For although there was much talk of, quote, saving the world for democracy and fighting a war to end war, the main motive was self-protection and self-preservation, the hope of gain and satisfaction of ancient hatreds, and the regaining of territory. There were so many massacres and, occurring between religious groups, Christians and the Muslims, bearing an old enmity, and horrible things happening as a result. The years which have elapsed since the war have proved this to be so. So this is written a little bit after 45. The United Nations is unfortunately perforce occupied with rapacious demands from all sides, with the angling of the nations for position and power, and for the possession of the natural resources of the earth, coal, oil, etc., and also with the underground activities of the great powers and of the capitalists, which they all create. Well, not a very pretty picture, and I guess, the question is, if we are honest, this angling for power and position, this insistence on sovereignty at all costs, this unwillingness to, out of goodwill, and because right human relations, the need for right human relations burns in the heart, these things are not followed. So we'll take up our reading next time here, and we'll say begin. Sorry. I'd like to be able to type for hierarchical purposes on the 26th of July, and it will be an evening program. Okay, well, we have to keep in mind how the money is spent and what is our responsibility in connection with that. expenditure, with that direction of money towards that which must be, if the divine plan is to really materialize upon our planet. On the outer level, we have to straighten out the etheric physical plane first, and maybe especially the physical plane, but the etheric, of course, is a big part of that, and overcoming these various veils which prevent the higher spiritual energies from coming through and motivating us. So now let's go on with the meditation. It is Sunday morning here, and I know it can't be Sunday morning everywhere, given the globe. But every Sunday, a day connected with the sun and with prana, and that with that flowing golden substance, which we call money, we have to direct the prana, the power to get things done, towards that which will really help. So we ask ourselves some questions, we go through some realizations in the light of the soul, and we realize that to those who give shall be given, so that they can give again. This is an occult law. And that's the way the great ones have advanced, by giving all they could rightfully give. And we ask ourselves these questions in light of the soul. If money is one of the most important things needed today for spiritual work, what is the factor which is at present deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy? We've been told that the kingdom of heaven is within, and yet we are still subject to the taint in consciousness of materialism. Our sense of values as a race is far more material than it should be. There is a spiritual materialism, but that requires a judicious attitude towards that which is to manifest upon the physical plane, and an attitude of discipline towards that which is needlessly manifesting. What is my personal attitude towards money? Do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset, or do I think of it in material terms? what is my personal responsibility in regard to money which passes through my hands? Am I handling it as a disciple of the Masters should handle it? The story of Hercules and the Hydra is apt in this regard. One of the dominating physical heads of the Hydra has to do with the wrong use of money, and so I think for all of us, maybe the battle is on to improve our use of money and to overcome this temptation to use it unwisely. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Does this temptation, this tendency, symbolically this head of the Hydra, have power over us? And what are we doing, in our own particular case to overcome the head of this Hydra? Finally and completely, so it is no longer a deterrent to our full ability, to the release of our full ability in helping with the divine plan. Now, normally we kneel in humility and we lift the Hydra up into the area of the intuition where we can truly see what our sense of values should be. And then we will be directed by the soul, and the temptations will no longer be so potent. They will be more easily overcome. So we go ahead and we ponder on the redemption of humanity through the right use of money. and we visualize the money as it is in the world today, concretized energy, at present largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction, where the individual is concerned, of purely personal desires. But we can also visualize money as a great stream of flowing golden substance passing out of the control of the forces of materialism and into the control of the forces of light. And then we say the following invocative prayer with focused mental concentration and from a heartfelt desire to meet spiritual demands. O Thou, in whom we live and move and have our being, the power that can make all things new, turn to spiritual purposes the money in the world. Touch the hearts of men everywhere, so that they may give to the work of the hierarchy that which has hitherto been given to material satisfaction. The new group of world servers needs money in large quantities. I ask that the needed vast sums may be made available. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. And then we visualize the work to be done by those groups which claim our present allegiance, and that is any group which you may know is attempting to carry out the hierarchical plan. and through the creative imagination and by an act of the will, see untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. And then we say aloud and with conviction and emphasis, He for whom the whole world waits has said that whatsoever shall be asked in His name, and with faith in the response, will see it accomplished. And we remember at the same time that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And now we say to ourselves, substituting after the word for, the projects, the enterprises, the groups for which we are asking the needed resources. I ask for the needed money for and can demand it because from the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. And then in our creative imagination we prepare to give our offering to the Christ and to His masters and their initiates and workers in the new group of world servers. we imagine the reality of the presence of the Christ as we offer Him what we have saved during the past week, what we have intended to give so that the work may go on, the great work of redeeming and uplifting humanity. And so we say together, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. And we find the way to offer the needed resources. And we close with our careful consideration of our own responsibility to the divine plan, and we try to plan our financial cooperation, our weekly financial cooperation with the hierarchy. And it requires that we be practical and realistic and know that if we do not give, we may not ask, for we do not have the right to evoke that which we do not share. So we lay our plans. We attempt to feel true love sweeping through us, and we have the fixed intention to express this love to all whom we may contact. It is the great attractive and selfless agent in world affairs. And as we close, and planning our contributions ongoingly, we sound the Om 3 times. Om. Om. thank you everyone for your participation, your attendance. We'll go on tomorrow with a special broadcast, rather it's a webinar really, on Zoom for the Esoteric United Nations, and for those who might like to be a part of that, you're welcome to come this time. And we all take a very reasonable pledge to be ongoing with our work to support the emergence of the soul ray of the nations, and thus the emergence of the soul of humanity. So, many blessings, lots of love from Tuya and myself and the whole communications team, who work oftentimes in the wee hours of the night to bring you the possibility of meditating. And I do realize that sometimes you have to wake up at times which are not exactly inducing the rest of the body. But these are the sacrifices of time and energy which we do make. So we'll be working together soon, and then next week we'll be on the evening schedule when it comes to the normal Ask programs and the special programs such as the Science of Triangles and the Identify as Being program and the Cosmic Fire in Depth. They will be in the morning. So, all the best to you, and have a beautiful day or evening or night, whatever it is for you. And we'll be back with you before long. I think you can look on Makara if you want to get the link, or write to me at infinitize8@gmail.com, or write to Michael Stacy at lightbearer137@gmail.com, and we'll make sure you have the link to see what the Esoteric United Nations work is all about. Okay, bye for now.